All right, guys, we're gonna do basically how to set up your boat for fishing inshore in like Port Royal Sound on the rips or sandbars. And what I want to show you is, like, right now I'm not on my own boat, and everybody's got a different setup on their boats, but I'm going to show you everything you're going to need to go out for success, how to set your boat up. So the first thing we're going to need are two heavy spinning rigs, or I'm sorry, conventional rigs. And these are going to have Carolina rigs on them. And these are going to be for our bigger fish, like cobia in particular, inshore on the rips, and the bigger sharks that we have. And I'm just using my space here. These two are going to be fishing back here to begin with, so we're going to have those two set up for some bigger baits, some live bait if we can get it, and we'll go over a lot more of that at the rip. The other thing we're going to need are two light spinning gear, light spinning rigs, and I have those already on here. And they're basically just a smaller rig, spinning rig with a Carolina rig on it, and a circle hook, about a 40-pound leader, and a lead anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces depending on what our tide is doing. So I'm going to take two of these. I'm also going to take two rigs to pitch lures, and these are basically like gotcha lures. These are about, I don't know, 2 ounces or so. They got some good lead on them, and you want to have these at your disposal because a lot of times on these rips you'll have Spanish mackerel and bluefish, jack crevalle swimming all around, and they're not eating, but they will eat these. And I'll show you how to pitch those when we get out to the rip. The other thing we want to think about is, if we do have live bait, we want to have a surface bait, a bigger spinning rig with a cork on it. And this is a double treble hook rig, basically a mackerel rig right here. This is wire and a cork, and I'll be showing you a little bit more of that. Now we want to think about this time of year. We can't really get live bait as far as throwing a cast net like we normally do most of the season, but we can get some other types of bait using a sabiki rig. This is a little bait catching rig here, and it's basically got 6 hooks with a little fly on it. Very effective on these rips, and we'll show you how to use those when we get to the rip. And let me qualify what we call a rip. It's basically, you'll have a tide going one way or the other, and you might have 40 feet, 50 feet, 20 feet of water, and all of a sudden it ramps up to maybe 6 feet over a bar, and that forms a hydraulic, and that tends to hold bait fish. And we'll be showing you more of that when we get there. Now the other thing we're going to need normally would be a cast net, but we're not going to be using a cast net today. If we get any live bait, it'll be on the sabiki rig. We will need a landing net, and these are just things that you got to think about before you leave. You know, a lot of guys go out and you catch a big fish and you're like, oh, we don't have anything to get him in. The other thing too would be a gaff for something that's a lot bigger that can go in here, and you got your gaff. And I like to bring two different sizes of gaff. This one has a bigger gap in it for a bigger fish like a cobia, a big broad fish. And then we bring another one that'd be more for like a mackerel that has a smaller diameter here for smaller fish to get in, to get them into the boat. Now, as you look around the boat, like I said, it's not my boat, but I'm trying to figure out how to set it up. You want these to be close by, but not in the way. And what I'm looking at here is probably maybe hang this right here so it's accessible but out of the way. And I'm going to put the bigger one just on the other side. And then, I mean, it's not going to be that rough today, but you want to kind of secure these so they're not bouncing around. And you can just use these little Velcro straps, tighten that stuff down, then you're not banging around. As far as the net goes, we'll probably be telescoping this down because this is a boat with some more limited room, and We'll probably end up putting this in the center console. It'll be out of the way, but not easily accessible. But sometimes that's a good thing. If you have things too ready to go, you're not gonna catch anything. If you're unprepared, as far as where your net is, you'll catch something big. Then you'll have to scramble around to find it. But that makes it exciting. The other thing we're gonna need are some leader line. On the big rigs, I'm using 80-pound test. You can use fluoro. I use mono. On occasion, I'll use the fluoro. I'm taking 80-pound for our big rigs, 50-pound for our lighter rigs that we're gonna be pitching those smaller rigs out. And then we got some 40-pound for our lures that we're gonna be pitching. All right. Now, one thing that can make things easier for you, use your boat. Like, you always wanna bring your pliers and some cutters. Don't leave home without those. I like to bring a pair of scissors as well. And a lot of boats don't have a lot of storage space, so I just use kind of what's given to me. Like right here, I'm just gonna set this up. There's my 40, my 50, my 80-pound leader, and it's right there. When I wanna make a rig, I can just pull out as much as I need, cut it, and then tie it. But it's out of the way, but easily accessible. As far as anything else goes, we're gonna be bringing some shrimp, some squid, and probably some mullet. Again, this time of year we have to buy some stuff just because there's not as much life out here. The water temperature's down. Water temp right now is, well, not very high. So what we're gonna do, we got to buy some stuff. We're bringing some shrimp and squid and get this all right up at the tackle shop at the Boathouse. And you don't need a lot for like a shorter trip, but you wanna have some variety, especially the squid and the shrimp for our light rods, all right? And we're gonna need a 5-gallon bucket. Don't forget a bucket. And what you'd wanna do is like put some water on this and let it thaw on your ride out. You don't want it to be too thawed out, but we'll put some salt water on this. As we ride out, it'll thaw out. Other than that, I think everything else we can cover once we get out to our destination. So let's go get them. All right, now we're coming up on one of these sandbars that I was talking about. And you can see we're driving straight towards it here. But you can actually, if you look right out here, you can see this distinct change in the water. And right now our tide is running out into open ocean. And it's running down along this bar and rolling over that bar. And you can see it plain as day. And that's why I was saying, I don't have any numbers on here, but it's a very visual thing. Now, the one thing about this part of the rip is if we set up here, we're gonna be running parallel with this. The tide's running out, but up here, there's a bend. And once we get up here, I'm gonna show you what you're gonna be looking for, in particular, where and how to set up on it, all right? So right now, the tide's going out. As we get up here, you're gonna see the rip change, and it's gonna be headed that way. And when we get up here, I'll show it to you. Okay, we're up here on the bend that I was talking about. And now the tide's running opposing this right here. Now, if you look out here, right now we're only in 4 feet of water. We're right on top of the break. And the tide's going out, so you don't want to be here right in this particular spot at low tide. But we're going to fish this to low water. But you can see these changes in the water here. You can see like a flat, smooth side, and then it gets a little bit rougher. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull up. Like I said, the tide's going out. It's rolling over this shallow water. And then it gets deeper again. What we're gonna do is anchor up here, let the tide bring us back to the break, and then we're gonna hold right there, and then we're gonna set up and start fishing. So right now we're gonna get the anchor ready. And what I like to do is if you watch the bottom machine here, now again, this is pretty shallow water right now. But I like to drive over it, as long as you know you can. And I know we can. And you want to see where it gets the shallowest. And it's gonna be visual to you. Like we should be coming over the shallowest part. Right about here. Now what I'm looking for on the screen is any sign of bait or life. And the other way we look for it is, in particular, not necessarily pelicans, but white birds like terns and gulls working right on the break. So what we're gonna do, you can kind of see a little bit more of the break here. We're on the back side of it. Now we're gonna go to the upside and we're gonna anchor up. You can get a pretty good visual of the break here with the sun at our back, where you can see the smooth water as opposed to the rough side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually set a mark here. Once I get to where I know I wanna be fishing, and then we're gonna try to hit that mark when we drop our anchor. So we're gonna be coming over the shallow part, right in here. I'm marking a lot of bait, and I didn't expect to. It's really cold. There's not a whole lot of live bait around. That's why we bought some to fish with. And again, the tide's running out. We have a big tide today. It's a positive 8.5 foot tide. And where I want to be is somewhere right about here. And I'm going to go ahead and just mark that. What I want to be is what we call like in front of the rip, in which we are right now. See how the water's getting deeper? Back behind us, it's shallow. Now we're only in 8 feet of water. And you'd be surprised how many things that are very large that you can catch in less than 8 feet of water. Giant tarpon, big cobia, a lot of big sharks. Okay, that gave us the waypoint that we're trying to hit. And we might hit it and we might not. As long as we're the right distance away from the rip or the break, that's a good thing. Now, as I look up along the rip here, I do see some white birds. They're not necessarily working, but that's a good sign that they're here. All right, Johnny. So we're dropping the anchor. I'm in neutral. We're not doing anything. We're just letting the tide take us back. And right now we're 40 feet. I've drove past our spot, and now we're zeroing in on it. And the break is right back here. Now, one thing you can do, and I just want to show you this, it doesn't matter that we missed this mark, but we're pretty close. And what really matters is the distance that we are from the rip right here. And this is about what I want to be. I can see the break right back here. And we know that this runs up. So think of it like a backboard back there on this hydraulic that should be holding bait. Now in the summertime, there'll be white birds working. You'll see bait flipping, and that's a good time to get your lures out and start pitching. We'll go over that in a second. One more important thing, you want to punch in a waypoint and have your distance to it. Now granted, this is 40 feet from it, kind of off to the side, but if that number stays the same, you know your anchor is holding. If you look down and that number starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, then you're drifting and you're going to have to re-anchor. But as of right now, we're going to set up and show you how we're going to start fishing here. Okay, what we're going to do is get these big rigs unwound. And what we're using here, we got a big tide. I got an 8-ounce lead on here, and it's basically a Carolina rig, and I've kind of modified it. Normally we'd use just the circle hook, but I snell a stinger hook onto it for bigger baits. So this hook will go through the nose that treble hook will go through the tail. And we're also going to be fishing these light rigs. Now this is 50-pound braid. It's a little excessive. We're using basically a smaller version of what we're using on these big ones. We're using a lighter leader, a shorter leader, a lighter lead, and a circle hook. This is a number 2. You can use a number 2 or a number 3. And what you can expect to catch on these are what you're going to want to use your squid and shrimp on. All right, so we're going to get these ready to go. And we're going to be fishing these out of these side rod holders. And again, it's not my boat, we're using what we got. So we're going to start by getting some mullet out on these big rigs. Now the potential you have here, the different types of fish you can catch is pretty crazy. Anything from Spanish mackerel, bluefish, cobia, tarpon, jack crevalle, a variety of different sharks out here, and a lot of big stuff. And the other thing too is I said this is 50-pound braid on this light spinning rig. And the reason that is because the big fish don't necessarily know they're only supposed to hit the big baits. A lot of times the biggest fish hits the smallest bait you got. So you're gonna wanna have some really good spinning gear and put it to the test. And this is 50-pound braid, which most guys would have maybe 20 on here. But I like to be able to handle them. You're gonna wanna have a good stick, a good light, solid stick, and a good reel that holds a lot of line, all right? These for our canyons right here. Daiwa makes a fantastic spinning gear as well. I'm using these guys today, and I have braided line on my spinning gear and monofilament on our bigger gear, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just put a mullet on. And like I said before, a lot of times we'll have live bait, but I'm going right through the nose with that circle hook. And if that's all I was fishing, then I'd be good to pitch it. But I like to have this stinger hook on the back. A lot of times the fish will come up and you'll pull in a head, but the tail and body are gone. But that stinger hook will take care of that business. And a lot of times you'll catch your mullet, or I'm sorry, your bluefish in particular on that trailing hook. So all we're gonna do, the rip is about, I don't know, 25 yards behind us. I'm just gonna pitch this out towards the break. Drop it down, it's only about 8 feet of water. Set this, about 25 pounds of drag. Just kind of feel it out, you don't want it too tight. And then you're just gonna put this in the rod holder. We're gonna do the same thing on that side. Okay, we're using about a 3 ounce lead, 40-pound monofilament, and I'm just gonna hook this squid. There's really no wrong way to do it. The squid's a softer bait, and it's good to bury the hook in a softer bait. If you're using a more solid bait, you would want some of the hook exposed like that. But because this is a soft bait, I want to bury the hook. And now this light one, you're gonna get most of your bites on these light sticks. We call them giggle sticks because you get a big fish on a light rod, you just start giggling because it's fun. But you're just gonna pitch this way back, like way back towards that break. So that's pretty much right at the break where that water is rolling up on itself. Get in touch with the bottom a little bit, flip it and have it fairly tight. But you don't want any slack in the line or you won't see the bite. And then again, we're just gonna put this up here out of the way. So we're basically fishing 4 of these, 2 big baits in the back, closer to the boat. These are far back by the break. That way you get a hit on this one, a fish on this one. The short one is out of the way. You get a hit on that one, wherever he goes, this one's far enough back that you're probably not gonna get tangled up. So that's the idea there. Now, the other thing we're gonna do, and especially if we have live bait, is we're gonna wanna grab a a topwater rig. And basically what we're using on that is what we call a king mackerel rig or a king rig. But it's also good for Spanish mackerel, cobia, anything that hits on the surface. A lot of times your bluefish will be on the surface, some jack crevalle. But basically all this is 50-pound braid. You got a little Cajun Thunder or a cork. And then we're using 40-pound braided wire here. Now this works best with live bait. And in particular because the dead bait, it will work on the surface, but it doesn't, you definitely want to have live bait. So assume this was alive. All right, so you have a lead hook and a trailing hook. And you got to think, your cork's going to be here, and the tide's going to be holding this out like this. So you always want to make sure you put the lead hook through the nose. All right. And then this would normally be a bigger bait and alive, but this would go back through the spine on the top, just like that. Some guys like to put this hook on the belly. I don't think it really matters too much which way you do it. And you don't have to zing it out there or anything real serious, but pitch it away from the boat. And now you're gonna just let the tide take that cork back. You're just gonna ease it back. And when you are easing it back, don't just let a bunch of slack in the line, because a lot of times that fish will hit it as it's going back and you'll miss him. So keep tension on it, be ready to flip that bail, keep an eye on it. And I'm gonna put this right on the break back there, right on the rip that we've been talking about. And now this one might not get hit as often as your bottom rigs. And for that reason, make sure you're not too tight on your drag. Because this one doesn't get hit as much usually, I'm gonna put this somewhere kind of out of the way, maybe in this rod holder, or maybe even up here. And that way, let's say we get doubled up, or you know, whatever we got going on, we don't have that rod to have to get out of the way and move it. All right, and if it goes off, we can grab it and you're ready to get him. This is our sabiki rig. And basically these are designed to look like little glass minnows that those, like the bluefish, Spanish mackerel, and threadfin herring feed on. And this rig comes all ready to go. You don't have to tie anything but the swivel to your braid. And then I'm just using like a 2-ounce triangle lead. All right. Now what the deal is here is you can do this a couple different ways. You can, and it depends on a lot of times if you're seeing the bait, and you'll just see little splashes on the surface, and that's them. So you just want to drop this down to the bottom, and it's not very far. And then all you're gonna do is just lightly jig this up and down. Nothing crazy fast or anything. But when that bait is in here, you can catch 6 at a time. And what I do want to tell you is on the sabiki rig, if you do have, as soon as you feel a couple of them, start bringing it in, all right? And let's say there's 2 baits on there, stop reeling, lift, and bring this into the boat and grab the lead. A lot of times these bait fish will go, oh my God, I got 6 of them. And they go bloop, 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 bloop. But if you bring it inside the boat, if they do shake off, they're still in the boat. The other thing too is if you have a bunch of them on here at one time and you don't reel them in quickly enough, this turns into a nightmare of a knot, a big mess. Bring it in. As soon as you see that swivel lift up, grab the lead, keep it in line. Because the more of this you have, you're gonna have a bunch of knots and hooks together. So it takes a little practice on these things. Now, I demonstrated just going straight down, but sometimes that bait is way back way back on, right on the break, but we're fishing away from it. So if that's the case, all we're doing is pitching it way back. Let it sink, tighten it up, and now you're jigging way back there. Now sometimes it can be harder to get the bait all the way to the boat when it's that far away, but at least you're gonna have a shot at live bait. And live bait's always, it's always good to have something wiggling out here. So there's your sabiki rig. There's one more thing I wanna go over, okay? So we got our 2 baits on our big rigs. We got a squid and a shrimp on our light rigs that are fishing way back. And now let's just say we see a bunch of fish jumping around. That's why we bring our lures. And I got some gotcha lures, some Clark spoons, but these guys have some weight to them. Now again, this is my spinning gear, lighter rig, and I'm using braided wire and a little swivel right here. So you're gonna go a little swivel, barrel swivel, braided wire, and then your lure. Now the reason I put this little bit of wire on here is because the fish we're after have very sharp teeth and they are predators. And a lot of times when they hit this thing, they hit ahead of the lure. So here's the lure and they come up and they try to grab it right in front of where my thumb is. And if it's just braid to this, he's gonna cut you off. So just give him a little bit of leeway. Now, I did say these fish are predators, and what we're gonna do is you're just gonna whip this thing out almost at a 45 from the boat to the rip, and you're gonna wanna try to get at least to the break or past it. You're gonna let it sink for a second or two, flip the bail, keep your rod tip down, and reel fast. And now I'm gonna tell you, when these fish are in here thick, you're gonna catch one after another. But I'm reeling pretty fast. And now if you get a hit or you see a fish coming for it and you stop, he'll turn away because they're predatory fish. They like the chase. So let's say you pitch it out. You start reeling and you get a hit. Like I said, don't stop. Let's say he hit it, but he didn't get it. Keep going, because another one's coming right behind him. And that's what you want. You want one to chase it and then another one to see him chasing it and then get them all riled up. All wanting to chase it, that's what you want. Now when you're putting these away, you can hook them down on these little hooks down here if you want. I like to keep it up here. Never through the eye, always through the side. Never put a hook through your eye, because what it'll do, the barb on there will put a chip in your ceramic, and as your line is going around, it'll wear it. And the reason I like keeping them up here is because a lot of times, especially because what we do charters, people will go to grab the rod and they got a trouble hooking their finger because it was down here. Up there, it's accessible, it's easy, and you don't have anyone getting a hook in their hand. All right, we're simulating that we are on an artificial reef. Most of you have probably heard of the Betsy Ross, which is a great, great reef to fish. One thing I do want to tell you is there are a ton of them. A lot like the Betsy Ross, with a lot of structure on these artificial reefs. Some of them are only about 3 miles off the beach. Some are up to 20. But the bottom line is, even in a 25-foot boat on a nice day, it's no problem for you to fish it. What I want to show you is how to set up to fish the artificial reefs. Now we're going to be using our big rigs, and we're going to be set up on some structure, and you'll be able to see it. And a lot of it is marked, but just kind of like we were talking about before, we don't have live bait right now. But normally when we're fishing those reefs, this would be a live bait where we're just using a mullet right now. So we're set up, we're anchored up on the artificial reef. Now you don't necessarily want to be right on top of a bunch of structure because you'll get hung up a lot. But if you're close by, close to it, that seems to work out at least a little bit better for me. But we're at the reef. We're just gonna drop this one down. I usually fish 2 big rigs down on the bottom off of the back. And this will be anywhere from, you know, depending on which reef you're at, anywhere from 45 feet to 100 feet of water. All right. And we're just gonna leave these in the rod holder. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And now another thing we're gonna be doing is going for, okay, so potential to catch at these reefs. Cobia, king mackerel, Spanish mackerel, mahi, sailfish, blackfin tuna. Not very often on those 3, but it does happen. Black sea bass, snapper, vermilion snapper, grouper, bonita, barracuda. Help me out, Johnny. Triggerfish. I mean, there's a ton. Grunts and porgies. There's a ton of stuff. So we're fishing our big baits for the big fish that I was talking about. And then the smaller fish like your vermilion snapper and black sea bass and stuff like that, we're gonna be fishing what we call a chicken rig, which is this rig right here. And this is a double hook rig. Basically, you got a 50-pound line right here. And then you spring this off with a circle hook, run down a little bit further, and I'll be showing you these rigs during the seminar. So it's a double hook rig, and then we would have a bank sinker on here. And then we're gonna be using, depending on how heavy the current is, today it's about an 8.5 foot tide, so we're gonna be using a heavier lead. This is an 8-ounce lead, and the 8 ounce is the same that we have on our live baits down on the bottom. But this is gonna be a little bit different. And these are easy to change out. When you make these rigs, you just make a loop. And if you got too much lead, all you're doing is going through it, underneath, and back around. And then if you decide you need a 4-ounce lead, you just flip it, unloop it, switch it into the other size lead you need. Now on these chicken rigs, we're gonna be using squid, primarily squid. And I use it on spinning gear with braided line. On your chicken rigs, you don't necessarily need a ton of bait because you're not going for real big fish. You might catch big fish like amberjack will come and hit these. And like I said earlier, the big fish don't know that they're supposed to just hit the big baits. And so you want to have some very strong hooks. I'm using 50-pound leader, 50-pound braid, but very strong, small hooks. And all you're doing, squid's a soft bait, you're just gonna bury the hook in the squid. You can hang on to these big rods while you're fishing. I find it works a little bit better to leave them in the rod holder until the rod goes off. So you got these, they're just by themselves, you're just keeping an eye on the rod tips. With a chicken rig, it's a different story. All you're gonna be doing is flipping the bail and letting this drop to the bottom. And like I said, you might be in 50 to 80, 100 feet. As soon as your line hits the bottom, this will stop. Flip it, crank up about 3 or 4 cranks, and you just wanna hold tight. And these you do wanna have your hands on. So like you might have one guy back here watching these rods and one guy over here chicken rigging, another guy on the other side doing the same thing here. And you're just gonna wait for the bite, wait for that bite. The hooks I'm using, you can use J hooks, that's fine. I'm a circle hook advocate. And one thing about the circle hooks is when you get a bite, don't rip his lips off. You're not bass fishing. You just wanna hold tight. He might hit a couple times and wait till he takes it down and then bring him on up. Now let's say we got a fish on right now, we got a trigger fish or something on, a sea bass. We're bringing him up. One thing you want to be aware of at these reefs is there are a lot of barracuda and a lot of sharks. And we play a game called Beat the Cuda. So what that means is You got to get these fish up through the gauntlet before the barracuda gets them. When I say, let's say we got him. When you see the swivel, stop reeling. You don't want to reel that swivel through the eye. You don't want to do this because that'll break your rod tip. So you got your fish on, lift up, grab the lead, and bring him into the boat. Don't sit here and look at him and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, and then he drops into the water. Always just bring this lead in and hold it tight and keep this in line, okay? So we got our big baits down. We got two guys about midship that are running chicken rigs. I want to show you how to catch a barracuda on a crazy piece of plastic called a CUDA tube. And it's just a double hook rig with some wire on it. The barracuda have some very sharp teeth. Now, the CUDA tube comes just like this, and it's designed for you to take your braid directly to the swivel that comes on the CUDA tube. I run a little extra wire here because, again, these are a predator. They love the chase. They love something fast to chase. And a lot of times they'll hit above it. And if you don't have this wire, their teeth get into this. The CUDA tube's gone and the barracuda's gone. But basically on these guys, I usually have someone up front, kind of out of the business end of things. And you're gonna pitch this lure. And the way you operate this is you pitch it out as far as you can, let it sink for a second, flip the bail, and reel and pump. And the faster the better. And you'll see them chasing it. They'll be coming right after it. And you want to see a couple of them coming for it because then you know they're fighting over it. But the faster you reel and pump, you're creating a good looking lure for them. And these do come in different colors. So let's say we catch like two of them on the green. And for whatever reason, what I've noticed, after you catch one or two on one color, the other ones stay away from it. But you might switch it out to yellow and all of a sudden they're all attacking the yellow or the pink, whatever. Those are the three colors that they make them in that I'm aware of. While we're catching smaller fish on our chicken rigs, we're waiting on a big fish on our big baits. We also want to have a live bait out on the surface on a cork. And that's where you can get basically what I call your bonus fish. And at these reefs, you know, depending on the time of year, you can catch tuna. I've caught sailfish, blackfin, mahi. There's stuff that you think shouldn't be there and they're there. But basically here we're gonna put a live bait on the king rig with our wire and pitch it out probably about 35 yards from the boat, the back of the boat. The current will take this back. And again, you want to keep this maybe up and out of the way until it gets hit and have it close by where you can grab it. So there's your top water. We're fishing top water. We got 2 chicken rigs going, depending on how many guys you have, or anglers you have, I should say. We got our top water out, these out. If we're seeing some barracuda, you might go up and try to pitch to a barracuda. The other thing that might be happening is you see schools of bait going by and birds working them in like cigar minnows about this big. That's the time to take your sabiki rig, which I demonstrated earlier, and just start jigging. And these baits you'll catch closer to the surface. The barracudas will come after them when you get hooked up, so try not to go all the way to the bottom with it because you won't get your rig back. You'll be bringing baits up and the barracudas will destroy it. But you only have to go down, 10 feet or so, and if that bait's there, they'll hit it. And if you didn't bring any live bait, all of a sudden now you have live bait because you brought the sabiki rig. You brought stuff that you need. You also may see schools of Spanish mackerel, bonita, false albacore, stuff like that. And you'll see them busting on the surface. take these same lures that we were using inshore. Sometimes you can use a bigger one. This one's a pretty good one. It's kind of beat up because it's been hit. But you're just gonna pitch these out away from the boat into where you're seeing all the splashing. As far as you can towards the school. Let it sink a second. Keep your rod tip down and reel fast. And these can be very effective. And also if you do catch, let's say like a bonita, maybe a fish that looks like a tuna but is nowhere near the grade of fish that you necessarily want to eat, you can cut those up and use those for bait and catch some really cool fish on those chunks, especially on the chicken rigs that you're dropping down. Okay, along with this, you also want to have a jig, a vertical jig. You can use the butterfly jigs. I really like using this one up here. All right, this is a Spro jig, and this is a glow jig. So when this is out in the sun all day, when it drops down to 80 feet, it's pretty bright because it does have the glow paint on it. Now what I've done is I got a short leader on this. This is 80-pound leader. And this jig is designed to go down to the bottom and be bouncing around. And it's very effective on its own. It's very effective when I modify this a little bit by attaching a stinger hook, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is because when I'm gonna tip this jig with a live bait. In this case, I don't have a live bait, but I'm gonna tip it with a mullet. And then I'm gonna put this hook right through the tail of your mullet or a live bait. Now what you wanna do with this is you wanna have this thing working. You can work it by yourself, but I'll show you a little trick, especially if it's kind of a bouncy, rough day. I'm gonna be fishing this up forward, away from our chicken rigs, away from our other big stuff. But you're just dropping this down to the bottom. Like I said, you'll be in maybe 80 feet. And then all you're gonna do is jig it, let it drop, jig it, let it drop. You may bounce it a couple times. Now you don't necessarily want to be jigging this all the way to the bottom because there is a lot of structure down there. On these reefs we have army tanks, sunken tugboats, APCs, bridge rubble, a lot of stuff to get hung up in. And especially with that treble hook on there, if you're bouncing this right off the bottom and you're in structure, you're gonna get hung up and hung up and hung up. So maybe hit the bottom once, feel where the bottom is, get it up off the bottom, and then start jigging. Now this can wear you out over the course of a day, especially if it's a slow bite. But if it's a rough day, kind of bouncing, you can put this thing in this rod holder up front, as far up forward as you can, and put it in there. And if the boat's bouncing, it's jigging itself. So you can walk away and it's jigging itself. So you don't have to wear yourself out. And then you'll see that thing go off. Just make sure you're close enough to get to it in time. Another thing we can do while we're out here, there's a cool fish called a spade fish. And they look like a giant angelfish. They'll be about, I don't know, that long, that tall, and about that wide. And they got some black and white stripes on them. Not necessarily like a sheep's head or something like that, but they do have stripes on them. And they'll be swimming all around the surface. And they'll drive you crazy because they don't eat hardly anything but jellyfish. And what we do is we scoop cannonball jellyfish, which are ones that cannot sting you, and we'll cut them into little pieces, put them on this little circle hook with a lead, and we'll drop this down. Most of the time these fish are within 10 feet off of the bottom of the boat or right on the surface. So you're just gonna drop that right in front of them, and then the water is clear out there. So you can see your bait and you can see them coming for it. The hardest thing to do is not pull it away from them when they take it. But that's why you're bringing this lighter gear. Another thing that I'll do once in a while, if those fish are really on the surface, I'll take the lead completely off and tie that hook directly to the braid. And then you just pitch it out and it's just kind of free swimming back there. And you'll see them coming to get it. So that's one thing we do. We also take a bow and arrow and shoot them sometimes, but that's kind of specific times of the year. And that's a whole nother segment. I want to bring up we're going to show you a little bit about proper ways to gaff a fish. But one of the primary fish that we're after out here is cobia. And the regulations on cobia they change once in a while. They have to be 36 inches from their nose to the fork of the tail. And a lot of times they're you have this fish on for a long time, but he finally gets to the boat where you're gonna get a shot to gaff him, to get him into the boat. But is he big enough? Is he too small? I don't know. Should we use the net? Should we use the gaff? What I do is on my gaff, I measure 36 inches and put a piece of tape right there. And this fish is gonna swim by you at least 5 times. And now you have a reference. You can be like, okay, here he is. Oh yeah, he's definitely big enough. Or nope, get the net, because we're not gonna be able to keep him. Just little things to think about to make your life easier on how to gaff a fish. We use a cork on them while we're riding. You want to reach out past the fish, just behind his head, and always go overhand. And you want to get this behind his spine and up and in. Does it always work out that way? Hell no, it doesn't. Sometimes you hook him in the tail and you are in a battle trying to get him in the boat. One major thing to remember when you're bringing a big cobia into the boat, or a lot of big fish into the boat, have your deck completely clear. Don't have your buckets sitting here or a tackle box that's open, because he'll destroy everything once he gets on the boat. So make sure your deck is clear and you got some place to put him.